Hey Track Junkie fans, this is Larry. I wanted to go over some Sim Xperence and my experience with Sim Xperence. Right now I'm just going to run through some R Factor 2, show a little bit of gameplay of it, and just so you can see, and you'll hear the butt kickers kind of going crazy, but well, in particular one, I have an old Gamer 2 butt kicker on the back of my R seat rig, and I'm running two Sim Xperence edition butt kickers up at the front of my rig, one on each side of my pedals. So you'll get the you'll feel the feedback when you're running over rumble strips on the left or the right, the road texture, bumps in the road. You know, both of them will be shaking when you hit the bumps in the road. One will be shaking depending on which, rumble, what side of the rumbles you hit, left or right side. You'll feel impacts of cars in the rear. And I'm only running one butt kicker in the rear right now. I have two more coming. The one I have now in the rear is a Gamer 2, like I mentioned, but I'll probably use it. I'll probably use it for just controlling the shifts, and then I'll have two butt kickers, Sim Xperence editions, running on either side of my rig on the rear. So just to sum up, I have at least 5. Well, at least 4. I may not. It may be too much with that 5th one on there, but we'll see. Anyway, if you have not seen the software, this is kind of what it looks like when you're tab out for between R Factor and Sim Xperence. And right now, I have a Nissan GTR set up in here, and this is what happens when you tab out. You hit the control center like you saw down here, and oops, minimize that now. I don't have any car for some reason. Oh, that's not even right. Let me go back in here, maybe it'll reload it. Alright, tab out, control center. Oh, nope, still there. Apparently there are some glitches in this stuff. Well, let's just do this. Exit, close that out. I guess it was picking the first one, but within Sim Commander software, you have all these settings that you can use. Now I end up going a setting per car basically, because each car is a little different. I do a lot of iRacing. Here's a bunch of different setups. A lot of cars are kind of the same, like the Cadillac and the Corvette. Pretty much the same occlusions that you'll get for the bumps and the engine vibrations. They're both pretty rough. Of course, Formula F1 car, it is high pitched and very fast idle and stuff, so it'd be different. So like here on the Williams right there. So I haven't set up the F1 or Assetto yet. I have played with it actually quite a bit. It works great, but haven't came up with a final solution yet. So anyway, we're gonna go and load up. This is how when you launch Sim Xperence. Here, I'll just go through the basics of it here. What you do. So you have Sim Xperence down here at the bottom or here. Double click on it. I guess it's turned into somewhat of a how-to video. It launches Sim Xperence. Now your butt kickers aren't shaking or anything because they don't run off of sound. They run off of the programming. The program tells it when to shake, depending on how the video game is built. So I'm not a master at any of this, but I have used it for about 3 or 4 weeks right now, so I've become a lot more familiar with it. But I want to run some R Factor 2, and I want to use the GTR. So I'm going to just go ahead and select that one. And it goes through here. It says waiting for the game to start. So I will look for, oops, not that one. launch my R Factor 2. I already have it launched. There it is. Alright, I'm going to just do single player. And I'm running the Fanatec CSR Elite wheel. And I already have the selection right there for my car. And the track that I want and all that. So I'm just going to go ahead and run race. Now, some people wonder, it's like, is the Sim Xperence worth it? Well, I ran one butt kicker in the beginning with it, and it made me buy 2 more. So that kind of tells you something. It is worth it, I think, if you got a sim rig that you can mount your butt kickers to, and you're into this hobby as much as me and thousands others, and then yes, the $89 value is plenty worth it. You get a lot of value for the $89. So, and Sim Xperence is used to run a full simulation rig. So I'm just using it just for butt kickers right now, transducers. It doesn't have to be butt kicker brand. The Sim Xperence version of the butt kickers, basically, they take the butt kicker apart and put some foam in there, so you don't so you don't have so many rattle sounds and stuff. Is what it is. So, all right. Alright, now this is, hopefully this is not too loud. Let me see, I'll turn down the volume a little bit. You'll hear my Sim Xperence kick in. There it goes. Turn off the traction control so I can get some good drive. Now you feel everything. And I'll point out things when I run across it here. I go over this bump and I feel in the front and then the rear. This curve in here, I feel it just on the left side. Oops, oh, I feel that, man, that was a good hit. I felt that hit from that car. Get a little sliding out there. Now you see the car moving up and down. I feel that through my transducers. They shake to mimic that bump, basically. Pretty damn awesome. I mean, it's a poor man's full motion machine, basically. So. Especially on this R seat, it's pretty dang sturdy, but it does have some flex in it, and I think that flex actually helps quite a bit for running transducers with Sim Xperence, just because you do get some wavelengths going through there. So, you know, I feel from the left. Oh yes, thanks for the tap. Oh, that was rude. All about racing. See if I can catch up to him. Hard to race and talk at the same time. I'll turn my mirrors off. I'm using a DSD button box right now, so that's how I'm able to turn this stuff on and off really easily without using a keyboard. Fill that strip, fill that one on the right. Now since I'm running one butt kicker in the rear that's handling all the rear, I can't distinguish between left and right on the rear. It's just shaking the one butt kicker, right? But you can from the front. My butt kickers are pretty close together, and I was a little afraid that they'd be bleeding in together, but they're not. I mean, the front base they're mounted to on the RC Evo rig is, I mean, it's as wide as the Clubsport pedals, or a little bit wider rather, enough to hold those on there. But man, the immersion this gives you is just incredible. I feel the downshifts there. tweak all this the way you want to. Now, don't go crazy with all the intensities and stuff. Oh, I'm sucking. You can end up turning things up quite a bit, or it's just a big, just this huge vibration going on, and all you're going to do is start clipping out your amps, overheating your transducers, and they're going to cut off. So you don't want them up too much, because you won't make 1 or 2 laps in, and then the suckers will be turning off. So you want it to be subtle. You want it to not be too noisy. Now, I usually run headsets when I'm playing. Turn my speaker down a little bit more. I don't have to holler. I usually run my headsets with these, and so any vibrations I really don't hear with the headsets. Of course, I feel everything, and that's the main thing. You're a lot more immersed with headsets anyways. Because they're running 5.1 surround on my headsets. Some Turtle Beaches, actually. Actually, I use my Turtle Beach Black Ops 2 X-Ray Edition headsets, and they work great for the PC. And I'm a console racer, mostly. Well, not anymore, but used to be. I still play Forza 5. I have Xbox One, I'll play it. And actually, R Factor 2 is probably the best game I think to go to, even over iRacing, if you are a console racer coming from like Gran Turismo or Forza, because you have AI players to race against. Not everybody wants to race online with real people. Like this is just AI. You can adjust the intensity of the AI, and obviously I got them turned up fairly good. I'm having a hard time catching these guys now, but oh well, still fun. Main thing is to show off the Sim Xperence stuff. So you hear that? Just drifted in there. Get a little loose. And you can turn up traction control and everything on these, just like you could, let's say, Forza. Now, I'm a huge Forza fan. I love Forza. But with the Xbox One, I'm not going to go spend another $400 on the Thrustmaster wheel just to play Forza. Now, I spent plenty of money on the wheel setup that I have, and it really kind of pushed me just to go strictly PC racing. With the new consoles coming out, with the PS4 and the Xbox One coming out. Both great consoles, I have them both. And of course, there's no really racing games out on the PlayStation 4 just yet. But Gran Turismo 6, I believe, is supposed to be coming out around Christmas, is what I hear. But who knows? Polyphony tends to say a lot and postpones a lot as well, so we'll see. Alright. Come on, guys. Let's get it. But, anyway, running this game, R Factor 2, now, it's not as beautiful as Forza, and you gotta have a decent PC to run these games. I mean, I spent a couple grand on a PC. Of course, I use my PC for videoing, and that shook me so much it shook my vocal cords here. Man, talk about the feel of this. Sorry I'm going back and forth here, but those bumps I really felt in front of this car through my pedals. It almost feels like you coming out of your seat. Pretty cool. Did I get around that one guy? Yeah. Oh man, like 9th place. It's horrible. We got like a lap and a half to go. Come on, let's drift it in. Come on, let's go. Uh-oh, too wide. But anyway, Sim Xperence is totally worth the money. If you're gonna spend the money on a sim rig and a steering wheel like Fanatec or Thrustmaster, what's $90 for Sim Xperence? You're really gonna enjoy it. It's gonna make your butt kickers kick butt, or your transducers. They don't have to be butt kicker. It can be any transducer. Look at the inside. Sorry. Some of these AI guys are kind of like they are on 4s and 5s. You kind of push them around a little bit so you can get some ahead, because they hold this tight line a lot. Although I didn't hit anybody there, so that's good. One lap to go. I'm gonna make this work. I want to run it 5 laps, guys, so I try to run clean if I can. Now you can even adjust these settings, of course, for your engine. Okay. Hit neutral. You can adjust your settings as far as your shift points and stuff, and once you get into the software, you'll learn a lot from trial and error, actually, of SimVibe. Oh, that's a bumpy section. If I can get this guy. Alright, let's go, go, go. What was I saying? Concentrating on catching this guy here. I kind of question it myself. Will SimVibe help me become a faster racer? And I think it would. I think it does, because I feel what's going on with the car underneath me. Oh yeah, stuck it in there. Alright, looks like I might pull out off at first if I don't mess up anything. Let's see what place I'm in here. Yep, first place. But is it worth it? Will it make me faster? It's worth the money. Just get it. If you have one transducer already, definitely get it just to try it out. I mean, you spent that much money on going out to dinner with your family, and this is years of enjoyment here. Look at that, first place. Yeah, I got the checker flag. Anyway, I'm gonna pull over here. These guys on the buy. There they go. I don't know if you can hear this vibration here, but I'll get quiet. That's the idle from it, and this is my rear one making noise, shaking the chassis and stuff. You can feel the rumble. Now, I run 2 setups on engine, so I separate them is what I do, so I feel the front transducers kicking in at certain RPM, through the rev range, and then when it's idling, I really feel the intense slope of the engine from the rear and just a little bit from the front is what it is. So I will exit off of this. And you notice now when you go to the screen, where the regular butt kicker, you would be hearing all the noise of the menu systems when you're clicking around through here, going through the butt kicker, because it's just picking up the low noise frequencies. Oh, and also, just a note on the butt kickers, turn all your filters off, which, for using the small amps from butt kicker, from like the Gamer 2 setup, leave the filters off, let the software do the filtering for you. Let me just show you real quick. When I go into my control center, here's my Nissan GTR, and it'll show the rest of them once I back out of it, but okay, sorry, engine vibration, I only have one setting set up. But these intensity bars, don't go crazy with them. You'll get so much intensity, so much shake and rumble from your butt kickers that it'll just shake you to death. But pay attention to this RPM minimum. RPM maximum, I generally leave it set on auto, and it kind of auto sets for the RPM of the car. I don't know how it figures it out, but it does. And the lowest tone and highest tone. Highest tone I pretty much leave alone. I have played with it some, just to experiment, but it makes a difference. It just depends. You can almost chase yourself in circles if you're starting to adjust the lowest tone and the highest tone. This engine vibration setup I have just one. You can add 2 or 3 or whatever, but I have this one set up on all 4 corners. Of course, I'm only running 3, but I'm running this in chassis mode. And you could run it in extensions mode, but the reason I don't is, well, for one, I'm going to be going with 4 as a minimum anyways. But for 2, you have more options. It seems like you have more adjustability in chassis mode than you do in the extensions mode, which is this Sim seat mode. Now, whenever you load up this program, you'll be asked to load up the chassis mode and this, the extensions mode. I went ahead and loaded up both to begin with, just so I can experiment with them. But when it gives you a profile, say for like iRacing and stuff, a lot of these will all be checked on. And when you go to the chassis mode, they'll all be checked on. Well, it'll be reading from both of them. So you'll discover that you're not getting the right vibrations and stuff, and they are too much when you don't need it. And if that's the case, go over here and look. Just check, pick one or the other. Check them all off. Now, if you're going to be running an odd number of butt kickers, like 5, let's say, then you could come over here to SimVibe and then check on your gear change, and that'll be running off of just that one butt kicker. So let's see, SimVibe C, that's that. So then you could run the extensions mode like that, but I'm just running chassis mode. It seems to work really well. Things I've learned from the forums and stuff, reading up on people, you don't need every option that this SimVibe gives you. And this is kind of a little bit of a how-to as well, and so it might be a little bit longer video than I first intended. But if you're interested in this video hopefully will help you a little bit. Sorry if you hear my kids in the background, but hey, that's family. The engine vibration, you can set several of them, gear change several of them. If you want to, you can go add, you can add an effect, and it drops down to the very bottom is what it does. And you choose your effect, and then you have all these little choices here. And what I pick is, depending on what I'm doing, engine vibration, front suspension, impacts, and all that stuff. So let me go ahead and pause this and see what's going on with my children. Okay guys, I'm back. That's sisters fighting. It's my twins. What are you gonna do? So anyway, like you saw, you can do the engine vibration twice, and that's handy. And if you're wanting to get a certain feel between idle and high-end revs and stuff, you can change. Like if you want to pump up the vibration just for the front, you can do one for your front and one for your rear, or one for all 4 corners. I generally like for all 4 corners. If I'm just going to do one, that's what I would recommend. But if I'm going to split them out, that's what I do. So let's say you have one on here but you don't want, or you want to move it up, and they've got these little arrows here to move it up to the next one, move it up to the next one, right? The categorize them all together. Now, you don't have to worry about hitting save anywhere in this menu system. It's always continuously saving. But I don't want this engine vibration, so I'm going to exit out and it goes away. Now, one trick I have learned from some of the forums is reading and just experimenting with them myself, and I didn't really think about running 2 setups of one particular transducer feedback. But like on, say, front suspension right here, I have 2 of them. And it's real handy. Include compression is defaulted on. You can do include decompression. honestly, I don't really notice a huge difference with those decompressions on. I feel more noise basically from it, and not the smoothness that I'm looking for. And it probably depends on some of the cars too. But what I do for the front suspension is I'll run 2 of them, and I'll run my big bump, that tone that you get for your big bump. Basically, the lower to the left, the lower it is, the less that feel that you get, and to the right, the more feel you get on most of these. But and your dynamic tones. This one has big bump, small bump, dynamic, tone sensitivity, and max volume. Now, when you add them in here, they kind of default to something on here automatically, right? Well, what I've kind of learned through some practice and stuff is that the big bump, I'll separate the big bumps from the small bumps, and it works actually pretty well. And this actually, I don't know how the software recognizes where to put it from the front or the rear. Well, never mind. That was stupid. The front, it says front, so it knows to go to your front transducers, and the rear goes to your rear transducers, right? So you don't have a selection box, in other words, right here, like this all 4 corners or front or rear. Yeah, it's already there. All right, so stupid question. Anyway, so the big bumps I'll set to 0 for this setup, and then the small bump I'll increase it up, so because I want a hard hit. Small bumps are really hard to feel, especially through a chassis and going through all this metal and vibration and stuff, so they're a little bit hard to feel. So I'll pump them up, and then the big bumps I'll have a little bit less. But I'm breaking these out. The point is you're breaking them out in 2 sections, and you get a little bit more clarity this way is what I found. And dynamic tone sensitivity, I just leave it what it defaults, and max volume is always 0, which is, it's actually the highest it'd go, right? Same for the second front suspension bumps. This one I'm going to do the small bumps, or I'm sorry, the big bumps. The first one I did small bumps, so I put the big bump tone to 0 to, well, 5 is as low as it'll go, and small bump up to 40. I like 40. It's a good feel. It's not too much. And you got to keep in mind too, you got this sensitivity bar here, which is your volume, and it's not the volume of your amp. So this thing can get kind of complicated. You can end up chasing yourself in circles pretty easy, especially when you're messing with some butt kicker amps that you have 2 separate amps with this little stupid little clicker that butt kicker has to adjust your volume up and down, up and down. And it gets a little aggravating when you're switching from, say, R Factor 2 to inside sim racing. Hey, just plug somebody. No, iRacing. And yes, I look at their videos too. I learned a lot from them guys. Sean and Daryl. Or whatever his name is. Sean and, forgot the other one. But anyway, so you can end up chasing yourself in circles. So I usually leave the sensitivity around default, and on my butt kickers themselves, the amps themselves, after I kind of get all this adjusted, I'll turn everything off and work with just one at a time. But anyway, that's getting a little sidetracked. For these setups, main point here to get is, like, for front suspension and rear suspension, I pretty much set them the same. It's going to be the same feel. So the big bumps on the first setup off, small bumps will be around 40, and then for the controlling the big bumps now in the second section, I'll run it up to 60, and then the small bumps will be off at 5, and then same thing for the dynamic tone and volume. Okay, and I pretty much use this setup for the front as I do for the rear. Include compression, but don't include decompression. Experiment with it, and it depends on the rig. This is not going to be the same for every rig. This is running an RC Evo, which I think you can just buy parts for still right now, because RC has evolved their rigs even further now that this one I don't even see in them and the website for the America. But it is a great rig if you want to try out something that looks really nice and fits well. It's good. It doesn't have an adjustable seat on my model, which I do kind of miss, but It's alright, I'm usually the only one driving, so. Anyway, not to get sidetracked, rear suspension the same way. And I will also add, and I don't know if you noticed, but I keep these organized. So I'll keep my engine vibration up front, gear change, road textures, front suspension, rear suspension, front suspension texture, rear suspension texture. Actually, you know what? I'm going to turn this road texture one off. They tend to overlap each other is what they do. And I turned it off on some other ones and had a little bit better results with having the road texture on. But just because they give you all these options doesn't mean you should use all of them. Your road texture, this one's kind of really like in general road texture for front and rear of your transducers. So all four corners rather. And when I'm adjusting them separately, front suspension texture and rear suspension texture, it's doing the same thing as what road texture would do, or it may be doing something a little bit different, but you can't really tell. But I get a little bit better feel when I split out the task here. So, and then impacts, you feel impacts. Impacts are not huge. It's not a huge feel like some people would be hoping. And I haven't played with them a lot, but you have your big impact tone, small impact tone, and sensitivity, max volume, and then the false Q elimination, which I'm not sure what that is. But, you know, obviously from a small impact tone, this one's set at 80, which is, you know, quite high actually. It should probably be around, you know, 30 or so. So, or 40, I would say probably 40 like the suspension bumps are for the small bumps. So when you get that little small tap, you know when you get that tap, right? And the big impact tone, you know when you get slammed hard. So you do feel the impacts, but it's not a, you got so much going on with these butt kickers that it's not a huge deal. It almost seems like if somehow you could run the impacts separately on just two butt kickers, one in the front and one in the rear, and just to run those. And I might experiment with that later. But